Hello, this is Kate from dailytarotgirl.com, and this is my review of the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck by Rosy Aronson. Okay, so this is an oracle deck. It's got 65 cards in it, and it comes with it comes in a really nice box actually, and then it comes with a pretty decent guidebook, which I'll talk about in a sec. But what I want to do is I want to go through the deck first and let you have a look at these cards while I talk about them. So the backs of the cards are super pretty, and the cards themselves are really nice cardstock. So they're nice and thick. They feel very durable. They're quite big. Like they're not huge, but they're bigger than, like, say, your average tarot deck or oracle card deck. They're a little bit bigger, but they're not so big that they're difficult to handle. And as you can see, the finish is glossy. Okay, so each card, actually, let me just adjust my camera a little bit here. Each card features a face and a word and a number. And this morning, before I did this review, I was reading through the guidebook. And the funny thing is I normally don't read through the guidebook. I don't refer to the guidebooks too often. And the guidebook is really good. Like, it's definitely a book that I'm going to actually read, like probably cover to cover. And the idea behind this deck is that each face kind of represents like an archetype or a part of yourself, or both, really, kind of an aspect of who you are and kind of an archetype. And I've been working with this deck for almost a couple weeks now, and there's all different ways that you can work with this deck. So how I've been working with it is I've been doing a daily draw. So I draw one card in the morning, and I kind of look at that card, sit with that card for a bit, and then I read the description of that card. And in the guidebook, for each card, there's a bunch of like questions that you can ask yourself for insight. And yeah, it's really interesting to do. So I've been using this deck that way. So I do like the daily draws. And another way that you can use this deck, which I found really quite eye-opening, is you can go through the deck and pick out the cards that really resonate with you. So the faces that you feel really speak to you, or that fascinate you, or that you're drawn to. And pick those cards out, set them aside, and then go through the guidebook and read the description and the questions associated with each card. And I did this today, and I really found it quite powerful. So the cards that I happened to choose totally mirrored kind of some of the struggles that I'm going through right now and some of the things that I'm working on. So I thought it was really fascinating. This isn't really an ideal predictive deck. So if you like to do predictive readings, this isn't the kind of deck for that. This is more about working on yourself. So doing like self-inquiry and really exploring different aspects of yourself and your journey. And I feel like this deck is, like I said, it's more about like exploration. I feel like it's really good for going deep and doing a lot of inner work. I wouldn't use this deck if I was just looking for some kind of pat answers. I might use like a different deck or a tarot deck or something. But if you're wanting to dig deep and do some spiritual work on yourself, this is a wonderful, wonderful deck to do that with. So as you can see, these cards are so beautiful. I can't believe I haven't mentioned that yet. These are so beautiful. They're so colorful, and they're very symbol rich. As you can see, when you look at each face, they're just full of color and symbols. And there's so many ways you can read these cards. These cards are really meant to be contemplated. You can spend a lot of time just gazing at each card. And for those of you who like to meditate with your cards, or even dialoguing with the cards, when you kind of almost have like a inner conversation with the characters in the cards, this deck is like perfect for dialoguing, because these faces really speak to you. And as I was going through the deck for the first time, when I first got it in the mail, I was kind of shocked when I was looking through it, because some of the faces totally remind me of people, and I couldn't always put my finger on who they reminded me of, but I'm like, oh yeah, I like know someone in my life like that. So it's almost like the artist, Rosy, has really tapped into, oh, how do I put it? I'm not sure the right word, but I feel like, have you ever noticed that you'll know certain people and they kind of like look like other people you know, and when you kind of compare those people, it's almost like those people are from the same planet. So it's almost like there's like certain groups of people, and everyone kind of fits into a particular kind of group in some way, in terms of like physical features and maybe personalities as well. And I feel like this artist has really kind of tapped into some of those groups or archetypes, or however you want to think of it. And this is a really pretty one. So in the guidebook, there is a story behind each face. So there's quite an interesting little background story for each face, and like I said, there's questions that you can ask yourself for inquiry, and that is the reason why I found this guidebook so fascinating, is the stories behind each character. I love them, and I really resonated with a lot of these stories, and I kind of saw myself in a lot of these stories. And yeah, I feel like this is a guidebook that I'm actually going to read cover to cover. The guidebook also has a variety of spreads to work with, so I thought that was interesting, and they're like different spreads that I've never seen before, so I haven't worked with any of the spreads yet, but I plan to. They look really interesting. Actually, I'll show you the guidebook right now, and then we'll come back to the deck. So the guidebook that the deck comes with is just a little pocket book, which is awesome. I actually also have the bigger version of the guidebook, which I'm going to refer to just because it will be easier for you to see, and it has the same information that the smaller guidebook has. So like I said, each let's see if I can zoom out here. Not really. Each card has, you know, a number, some keywords here, and then a little story, and then there's some questions for contemplation at the end, which is really neat. And then at the back, there is spreads. So genealogy spread, this one looks really interesting. Yeah, so there's some different spreads here. And it's really a good workbook or a good guidebook to refer to when you're doing readings with this deck. I believe there was an earlier version of this deck that wasn't colored, so it was like black and white or sepia tones. And this version, the latest version, is full color. So it's a it's a very alive deck. Like I feel like this deck has amazing energy. Like it's very, very alive when I go through it. Like I feel like these are real people looking at me. It's quite amazing. Yeah. So I'm going to put a link in the bottom of the description of this video. I'm going to put a link to where you can purchase this deck if you're interested. And I think this is where we started. I'm not sure. I don't know if I'm repeating these cards or not. So yeah, a beautiful deck. It's a very unique deck. I don't have any decks like this. And actually, when I first got this deck, I kind of wondered if I would if I would not like the fact that all the cards had faces on them, because you know, without seeing the deck in person, I kind of wondered if it would feel repetitive to just have faces on all the cards, but it actually really doesn't. It's very, the readings that I've done with this deck have been very comforting, very informative. You know, I've gotten a lot of interesting insights, and yeah, so I haven't found that to be repetitive at all. It's really quite a fascinating deck to work with. And like I said, how I've been working with it lately is I've been drawing, you know, one card at the beginning of my day, and I kind of contemplate that card, and then I just keep it propped on my desk while I'm working, and I just kind of look at it every now and then. And it's funny how the card that you need the most will, you know, you'll draw that card that day. Okay, I think I'm repeating myself here. I just want to give you a really good sense of these cards, though. And of course, you know, in person, when you actually have the deck in your hands, they have a different look and a different feel. And one card that I completely forgot to show you, because I took it out of the deck and I set it aside. The one more card is this mirror card, which is cool. So you see your own reflection in it. So you get to be one of the faces in the deck, which I think is a really cool concept. So who is this deck for? Like, who is going to enjoy this deck the most? I think that this deck is really good for beginners. So if you've never had an oracle deck before, or you're not familiar with tarot, this isn't a tarot deck, but you know, if you're interested in cards but you've never worked with them, this is like a perfect deck to start with. Yeah, it's an excellent deck to start with. I think this deck is perfect for people who are really interested in doing readings for themselves, and people who are interested in exploring, you know, doing some inner work, exploring themselves, especially shadow work. And I forgot to mention this in the beginning of the video, but in her guidebook, there's an emphasis on doing shadow work and really excavating the parts of ourselves that we've rejected, or you know, parts of ourselves that we aren't necessarily even aware of. And I think this deck is a really powerful tool to work with that part of ourselves. Yeah, so I'm just trying to figure out how to end this video. I love this deck. This deck is awesome. It's definitely going to be a deck that I refer to a lot, I think, especially for self-readings and doing, you know, a lot of spiritual work and personal work. And I think this deck is going to be an absolute delight to work with over the years. So that was my review of the Wisdom Keepers Oracle deck by Rosy Aronson. And again, I'll put a link to the artist's website in my About section just below this video. So thank you so much for watching. My name is Kate. I'm from dailytarotgirl.com, and you can go to my website, dailytarotgirl.com, for more deck reviews, tarot tips, free tarot card spreads, all kinds of fun stuff. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.